Hello everybody here live in New Orleans and everybody watching at home. Welcome back to the MLG World Final here for Dota 2. We are getting ready to start our third series here of day number 2 action. It's the Evil Geniuses going against Virtus Pro. Kyle Guy going to be joined again from Malk and Nahaz. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Both of these teams have a bit of hot and cold success in this tournament. Both of these teams were knocked out round 1 at ESL 1 New York. What should we expect from both of these squads? Because it
Same as we always see with VP, all-out aggression.
Yeah.
Evil Geniuses, I'm a bit more torn on what they're gonna bring. When they're good, they're the world's best, and then they can also just be very disappointing, both in what kind of strategy they pick up and how they execute it. So I'm not entirely sure. I hope they can keep up with the aggression that we see from Virtus Pro, because right now I really feel like this version is all about taking early game control and just snowballing from there. We see it best in Monkey Business, who's right now waiting in the semifinals. So I'm hoping Evil Geniuses will try and revert into some more aggressive early game picks.
Yeah, at the same time, though, I feel like EG is also the best team in the world at punishing you for being inflexible. I think if they know what kind of style you're looking to play, it's not even just countering heroes, but countering a particular style. I feel like they're probably better at doing that than any team we've seen recently in the game.
So what are going to be some of the crucial pickups here for both of these teams? We've seen a bit of a variance here, especially from like EG. Sumail has changed things up. We know him to used to be the Storm Spirit kid, but lately we've been seeing a lot of these melee, brashy kind of heroes, the Slardar, the Magnus, and finding lots of success on being very patient and finding the perfect setups for someone like Arteezy to clean up. Are we going to continue to see that?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Sumail is actually the best I've ever seen on, like, when he's at his best, it's on these initiate heroes. He could do that with a Storm in a sort of carry position, but and of course his Shadowfiend build with the Yule Scepter. Now we've seen him on the Magnus. We saw him on the Slardar against LGD yesterday on the off stream. I feel like they can easily let him play these Blink initiate heroes and just really benefit off his immense talent of reading the game and just being at the right position at the right time, instead of just, and with all due respect to all Shadowfiend players out there, instead of just putting him on the Shadowfiend.
So where does this leave Universe then? He was the one we used to know to be kind of setting these fights up and had an eye for initiation. Is there a bit of a conflict then at that point?
That's the wonderful thing about Universe, and the reason that I think, if I had to draft anybody in Pro Dota 2 out of a team, I'd probably pick him first, is because he's comfortable playing in almost any style. He's a very strong laner, very strong, can get farm as the game goes on. I think he's fine, and I think what you're seeing is a lot of people asked before ESL how EG was going to adapt to having Arteezy back on that same team with Sumail, whether there was going to be enough farm to go around. And I think what you're observing, Melk, is just part and parcel for how they're dealing with those two players. They need to put Sumail on these more playmaking heroes and have Arteezy play his usual very greedy style.
Yeah, exactly, and that and a never-changing metagame, right?
Exactly.
So it's also adjusting to the new version, and the new version just dictates, A, no Storm Spirits. Storm Spirit is not allowed. It's just not strong enough anymore, and then B, again, coming back to this early game aggression and taking control early on, being the initiator, being the ones to seek out the fights. And, Magnus and Slardar really does that really well, and I'm excited to see if they can find something else as well.
So we've been talking a lot about EG and their formula for play. Now, what about Virtus Pro? What can they do to deal with that? Deal with that quick eye of Sumail being able to initiate, and for someone like Arteezy to kind of clean everything up thereafter?
Well, that's been the problem for VP in a lot of these games. They're a very, very good team when they get that early game momentum, but they struggle when that early aggression is limited. They struggle falling back and farming. They just don't do that. And that's why I feel like in these kind of games, EG can have a real competitive edge, because they're a team that has the ability maybe not to shut you down, but to force you to play a little bit of a different style than you're comfortable with. And Virtus Pro in the past hasn't necessarily been able to adapt on the fly.
I feel like the lineup that Virtus Pro excels at, and the one that is most dangerous for if you're the enemy, is their core position, Vengeful Spirit. Once they get that fast levels up on it, they just seem to really excel at finding the right windows, the right opportunities. They have the timing down to an art form. They're so good at executing that strategy that I would love to see it. I would love to just
They got picked apart though yesterday with that, and I
know that it's typical Virtus Pro as well. Either they just run over the enemy, or they just lose heart because they keep on feeding kills into them. And Vengeful Spirit is probably #1 hero at doing that. You know, you swap yourself into a position, either you kill the target or you get killed.
I'm just not convinced with that, just because to me, I like Virtus Pro when they give themselves a chance in the early game, even if the lanes go a little bit wrong. I think they're a good enough skirmishing team in the early mid game that they can bring themselves back from a lane deficit. I feel like with that Vengeful, especially in this version, I feel like if you pick that core Vengeful Spirit, you almost have to aggro trial lane around it, and if you do that, it's like an all-in. Where if EG gets a couple of early wins and early engagements, you can find Virtus Pro can find themselves in that position that they're very uncomfortable coming back from.
I can see that, but at the same time, the high success rate with the Vengeful Spirit is when they just have a dual lane on the safe lane, allow him to get up the levels, help out their mid lane with the other support, and once he hits those 7 or 8, he just goes.
Have you been looking at some stats, Mel?
No, I'm just looking at their games. And so, like, when Illidan goes out and threatens all the lanes, like, one of the things he's been doing really successfully is TPing. He's getting a TP scroll. As soon as he hits 7, he TPs on the off lane, picks up an easy kill on their carry position, and just snowballs from there. Maybe the entire team goes up, backs them up, takes out that safe lane tower. Yep. And from there, we see the same reason why CDC was so successful at TI. They take control of the enemy jungle from that.
No, that's exactly, and especially if you're doing that off the Dire side, right? That's a real key, and we saw that in the last series where CDC was able to take those Radiant mid tier 1 and bottom tier 1 towers, get the wards up to prevent those choke points accessing the Radiant jungle, and they just own the right side of the map. Yeah, I think you're very right. Virtus Pro can do that with their kind of playstyle.
Now, as these teams are prepping up for the draft that should be started shortly here, just at what's at stake for this match, it is technically an elimination match, as this is the Group A final. The winner of this series does get the pleasure to move on now and face CDEC in the next round for the start of the championship playoff. I don't like to think too far ahead and just kind of watch this series aside, but do you think one of these two teams would have a better chance at being able to take down what we've already seen now from CDEC? Who poses a bigger threat? Is it Evil Geniuses kind of being able to adapt and having already experience going against CDEC? But that's CDEC of old, not this new one we're starting to see where they're making almost this hybrid playstyle of still incorporating a very great bounty hunter and adding a little bit of that new flair.
I think if we just see the old EG, yeah, like the more confident, knowing what they're doing, coherent playstyle EG, then they would probably stand a better chance. But at the same time, it's two very different playstyles going up against this CDC that seems to have found a new stride in this version, just by looking at the games against Secret. So, on one hand, Virtus Pro can match that aggression early on, and on the other hand, EG is probably the best team at matching the execution in team fights later on.
Now, I mean, look, guys, let's be real. The EG that showed up at TI5, even, they slightly new roster, but if that team shows up and executes the way that they did at TI5, they can still win any tournament on the planet.
Oh, yeah, easily.
But I really do, this Virtus Pro squad, in terms of the ceiling of how far up we've seen them play, they have a chance to beat any team as well.
I don't think there's too much to breathe into it, but before this series had started, FNG had tweeted out, does anybody know how we should be beating EG? What's the secret to beating EG?
He does that all the time.
If you could compose one tweet as a bystander, what would you tweet back to FNG to give him a touch of advice to be able to take down the boys in blue? I know it's a tough one, and to put it into just such a little character limit, but I figure why not?
I feel like the flavor of the tournament right now is probably the Night Stalker. I think most drafts so far has revolved around picking it up and making sure that it can counter some of the enemy picks, but at the same time also give you that early game pressure. So aside from the monkey business games, it's actually been the one we've been seeing throughout the entire day today, being more or less successful, but I still think the whole threat that it poses just speaks for how the strategy, and I keep going back to how it's all about the early game.
You know what? So Queen of Pain has been a hero that coming into this tournament has really struggled in this patch, even though I think we all thought that she would do really well. But she is 7-1 so far at this tournament, probably the most successful here so far. And G is just capable of going so freaking ham on that particular hero. I'd like to see them just open Queen Earthshaker, maybe open Queen Wyvern, and just take the fight to EG.
I like the idea of that, especially after we saw yesterday how Miracle actually dealt with the kit, dealt with Sumail, and sort of made that Shadow Fiend look pretty worthless in comparison to how we normally see Sumail. And definitely shutting down the mid lane, making sure that Sumail is taken out of his comfort zone and making sure that he's just not ganking all the side lanes and so forth is one way of dealing with EG.
And you know what? The other thing to me, we've seen a lot of off-lane opens in this tournament so far. So Darkseer has been the most picked hero, and we've seen Darkseer a lot in the first phase. And I really think DK Phobos is he's such a valuable offlaner, doesn't get enough credit for his flexibility and sort of just the clean execution in his play. I don't think you have to pick an offlaner first phase if you're Virtus Pro. I like that Queen open all the more because of that.
And just to note, as it looks like we have jumped into the draft, this is not our final series today. We have one more. We got to finish out Group B. So at the end of this Group A final, there will be the Group B final, which is now going to be a rematch of MVP Phoenix versus Secret. So be sure to tune into that, and then we will have all of our championship playoff bracket slots filled for tomorrow, the big final day for the MLG World Finals.
And it's a renewed MVP, mind you.
Yes.
It's an MVP that did some deep soul searching yesterday. A team that flamed their captain March for the picks showed up today and really brought their A game.
So
and that's really the kind of the wonderful thing about these tournaments is you get to see these teams come in and get kicked in the shorts and figure it out. And I mean, these guys are veteran players, incredibly talented players. When they turn that switch on, you just never know what you're going to get. Well, there goes my Queen of Pain open, guys. Sorry.
They already answered your tweet before you can get it out there. No, sorry about that. But Virtus Pro also opened up with their own. They get rid of the Tusk. Darkseer is going to be removed. Obviously, there's no need to
I think you have to take out Doom here.
Take out Doom. Wisp is also something that maybe Virtus Pro could go for. We know EG not to pick it up,
well,
but
you know, Peter's probably thinking back yesterday. I believe it was one of those monkey business games that they had Illidan on Doom, and they looked really uncomfortable.
Or they maybe just think, like evil geniuses like to do, we think we have the answer for it, so we're going to go ahead and just let you get it. They tried that ESL one with the Brood.
They played against Doom. I think they lost that game though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean either way, you're looking at giving up Doom. I don't think you're too worried as EG about giving up a first phase Brood. I think DK Phobos is good on that hero, not quite the same as Mag, but they are going to go ahead and ban the Doom. I don't like this nearly as much on Virtus Pro. This probably will be a G Shadow Fiend that they're opening with here. And again, for exactly the same reasons that we talked about with Sumail, the SF certainly a great hero, probably a little better on the Radiant side than the Dire, but also not necessarily the explosive early game hero that's going to get you off to that strong start.
What do you think about an Ember Spirit pickup right now?
I think you can do it for sure. I think Ember in this patch, Ember is like 58% win rate. I think Ember's the hero right now, and I think he's easily a first base hero for any of these teams.
Do you then follow it up with your own Night Stalker just to make sure they don't get it on the other side?
Yeah, but the Wyvern is a Peter special. I think he plays that hero and he understands how that hero counters other both individual heroes and play styles just about better than anybody else, aside from FNG, who's also very, very good.
But do you have to get it first? I mean, was it going to be like Virtus Pro? We're going to be banning a Wyvern?
I think so.
For FNG and an FNG draft, yes.
Okay.
I think you have to. I think if you want the winner Wyvern, you got to take that first phase. They are going to go ahead and pick up the TA, and this is. I would lean toward an RTZ TA, but again, you always, when you're drafting against VP or Vega, you always have to think about the Brood as a first phase possibility.
And that possibility is now a reality, as we can see. So Shadow Fiend Brood, they're kind of putting everything out there. That's our two cores from the side of Virtus Pro. Evil Geniuses do grab a hold of what looks like the Sumail TA here. So I guess you can help a little bit.
Don't sleep on RTZ TA. This is the really nice thing. We haven't seen this as much from EG as we thought, but this was something I asked Charlie right away when they picked up RTZ, and he's like, yes, Sumail and RTZ absolutely will switch lane positions depending on the heroes that they draft. You could see either of them on this hero.
I would like to just complete Evil Genius's lineup right now and call out a Witch Doctor, a Sand King, and a Slaughter, and just be that would be their lineup. And
I am so down with that.
That would be amazing.
I am so down with that right now. I think that would be, I could pick a little bit in it, and I would say that I would rather have that lineup maybe on the Dire side than on the Radiant. But the Sand King gets you a little extra value on the Radiant, so I'm okay with it. That would be excellent.
Wraith King though, or more even.
Are you?
I'm not a fan of it.
Are you sold on Fear 4 Wraith King?
No.
Okay, I'm not either.
They have been going for that Wraith King at least twice this tournament so far for EG, too.
Well, I mean, on paper, it is good with the kind of style that they've shown in the last couple of patches, but I'm not yet sold on it in this version, and especially with the kind of early aggression. I mean, you saw Fear just give up a ton of deaths yesterday. He gave up like 3 or 4 straight deaths in those games without having ulti up, just because you have to withstand the early aggression while you still have that long cooldown on the level 1 reincarnation.
What about a Sumail Axe, like we saw from ESL 1?
Yeah, fortunately that hero is banned. Thank goodness, right? Now that's going to be Universe Clockwork, and you can hardly argue with that. He controls the game so well on this hero.
And it's been banned out so many times against him.
Yep.
It's not so much for his ability to hit hook shots that he's a crazy good Clockwork, but much rather how well he positions his cogs.
I could literally go on for hours about this on a dozen different heroes, but Universe's understanding of team fight positioning, I think, is as good or better than anybody I've ever seen play Dota.
Now we look to Virtus Pro. It's time to build up a bit of a backstaff here. It's great that you got your Shadow Fiend and your Broodmother, but they will need to start considering some supports here. Do they need to kind of recognize TA and her refraction and get something to deal with it? A Venomancer, a Jakiro, anything to help with that refraction bit?
I like the idea of a Venomancer. I think
a Rubik is the other thing that pops up to me. Very good against
still up here. AA is not bad. I mean, you don't have necessarily the Alchemist, the big Alchemist concern or the Husker concern to give that AA value as a counter pick, but you still get multiple damage instances.
I think right now they got to be mindful about how they're going to protect the Shadow Fiend as well.
I think, you know what? Spirit Breaker is still on the table for FNG, and I think you take that hero right now.
FNG we saw yesterday was a bit outside of his comfort zone, it looked like, when he was playing that Undying. You could definitely get a lot more done with something like a Spirit Breaker.
Well, yeah, I think the Undying, it fits the general mold of FNG on the kind of the tankier strength supports, but the lack of hard lockdown, I felt really hurt him in that game, because the way Virtus Pro like to play with that early pressure, if something goes wrong, that hard lockdown gives you a lot more options both on the offensive and the defensive side.
I also just wouldn't mind a classic Rubik pick. It's good against Clockwork. You've got your 4-staff candidate. We already know the lift is very nice against the cogs, and hell, you can even steal Winter's Curse. That wouldn't be too shabby.
Well, that's about it. Right.
For now.
It's yeah, for now. I don't think there's a lot of obvious steals for Rubik right now.
Yeah.
Another hero that is a pain to deal with when you're a Clockwork, there's the Venomancer.
Very nice.
Now they have run Illidan on this hero, by the way. They have run Illidan on the Venomancer, so this is not necessarily a support Venom, sorry.
I'd actually like to see that. So the Spirit Breaker pickup for Fear, obviously.
Okay.
Had a lot of success with that in previous games as well. I think he played a great Spirit Breaker up against Monkey Business in Game 1, the opener of the tournament.
Very good against the Brood as well.
Very good against the Brood, exactly. And I think, and Shadow Fiend too, honestly. Yep. I think this is a much more suited hero for him than the Wraith King, also just because of where we are in the meta game.
No, completely agree. They had a really, and there is your Rubik. They had a really strong sequence yesterday with Sumail showing a lot of patience behind an early charge on a Fierce Spirit Breaker. If I'm going to pick a little bit of nit with the VP draft, I feel like you could have picked the Spirit Breaker third and probably still had Veno on the table.
The Rubik now does seem a bit more potent. Before it was nice against Clockwork, but now against the Spirit Breaker, the lift helps there as well, so it could kind of diffuse a bit of the initiation that Evil Genius were planning on bringing in. But where you have a Spirit Breaker who could fall off initiation, you still have a Clockwork. So there are options out there still for EG. But we're getting ready to go to the final phase here. Banning coming on the Evil Genius side. For Virtus Pro, now you said it's Illidan possibly playing this Venomancer, so they have to juggle between either going for that secondary support or a possible Illidan hero here. Does one seem more likely than the other?
Pressuring the map and making space for the Shadow Fiend, a one position Venomancer would definitely make sense.
Yeah, you already have the Brood for that, though. And I'm thinking the
what's
other...
better than 50% map pressure?
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
okay, I mean, I have to concede that point.
So if there is a then fruitful option here for a secondary support outside of the Venomancer, what do we look for here?
So the Tusk is banned out, the Spirit Breaker's been picked up. There is a Night Stalker, but I don't think it's particularly good against the heroes that Evil Geniuses have right now.
What about like a Dazzle? You get your armor synergy with Shadow Fiend,
banned.
Heal Bomb with Brood. Oh, it was banned. You're right, you're right.
Yeah, I still think you could go greedy and you could go like something like an Illidan Luna here, something that you could aggro trialing around, but you don't necessarily have to.
I definitely do not like the Luna up against the Spirit Breaker Clockwork team.
Yeah. All right.
That's very dangerous, and even the Winter Wyvern. I actually feel like Evil Genius's lineup is meant to kill heroes such as the Moonrider. So.
But so you like the core Veno against EG's lineup?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually do. I really like this ban coming out from PBD on the Visage.
Yeah.
The Virtus Pro support players.
I mean, come on. You can't ever argue with a Visage ban against Lil. Yeah. That would be silly. So EG probably gonna go for their final core here, and I'm still on board with the Slardar. You brought it up really early. You don't necessarily need it. You have enough lockdown.
It's just great for running down the enemy.
Yep. And the Leshrac. Okay. So the question becomes, guys, this is going to be a safe lane Leshrac, or this is going to be a mid lane Leshrac?
I would have to say mid lane. You said safe lane. I know already we're split down the middle here.
No,
but
I'm going to go safe lane. But I think they could.
So like the Leshrac can deal with the Brood Mother in a better fashion than I think the Templar Assassin can. Templar is going to be fine up against the Shadow Fiend.
Right.
And then, assuming that Evil Geniuses try and keep control around the middle lane, Templar Assassin is also slightly better up against ganks from the Rubik and the Venomancer, although the Gale is going to hurt him a lot. Yeah,
so this is where I think Blitz's description of the Leshrac earlier was particularly apt. That Leshrac, if you can get him to the late game, is the same hero in the AA. So this is going to, this is going to be a core Illidan Veno with the AA, that combo that we've seen so much. I mean, hey, pick your favorite terminal disease. These guys have got it, and they are going to put it to good use here. I actually really like both of these drafts. I give the slight edge to EG in the laning phase, but I think if VP get into the mid game with parity, you're going to see so much out of that mid-game team fight combo.
Would you feel the same way, Milk, about that?
Honestly, I think this can go either way. I've been reluctant to call out a winner of the draft this series just because of how poorly I did in the previous matches. Every time I called out a better draft for instance, Cloud9, I felt like MVP just came in and showed what their lineup actually could do. So in this case, I'll just say it's 50-50, and whoever executes better is going to end up the winner.
One thing that's 100%, we're going to have a lot of fun in this game.
Should be a good one, gentlemen. And with that, we'll go ahead as we dive into game number 1. It's EG versus Virtus Pro. Let's throw it right over to our casters. It's going to be Capitalist and Merlini. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you, Coddle Guy. I'm Capitalist, and I'm joined here by Merlini. That's right. We've got the original here. No substitutes for this cast.
All right, we see a Leshrac versus Broodmother. This is a counter that I actually think is playable for the Broodmother, or playable for the Leshrac rather, as long as you have Sentry support in the early levels, because this guy has a ton of AoE, even with the Lightning nerf. As long as you get like a relatively safe 3 or even 5, then you should be completely okay. You can see VP already trying to be tricky with the lanes.
Yeah, they're going to go for this 4-man smoke up through the enemy jungle here. Now, they do get their early ward set up right up on the magic bush that is going to block out both of these camps. And if EG, let's see if they do have 2 different counter wards still. Fear is holding on to his, so that should be countered away pretty quickly. But you can pretty much guarantee that the first spawn, maybe even the minute spawn, is still going to be blocked out before they get to it. Looks like they're going to pick up the Bounding Runes split. No fighting over it in the first level. But what do you think, Virtus Pro? Definitely the more interesting combination here is going to be the Venomancer Ancient Apparition, which we've seen Cloud9 run a couple times, but this time around, it's going to be the Venomancer as a core. I feel pretty confident about this pickup against heroes like Templar Assassin, who Venomancer actually served as a laning phase counter against TA once upon a time.
I think the Veno is going to be pretty successful in this game. They don't really have that much lockdown for him. You don't really want to Winter's Curse him, nor do you really want to Nether Strike him. And he's going to get off his ulti. And it's also really good versus the TA. And they have a lot of damage to burst through Cold Embrace, as well as the AA heal. So I think VP's draft kind of nicely counters that aspect, the Winter Wyvern in particular. But the Brood, I think, is super important. Can DK Phobos actually push out the lanes and deal with the mild AoE from Winter's Wyvern as well as the heavy AoE from Leshrac?
Yeah, the you said that, you know, this is the Broodmother in a way is kind of countered. They've got the AoE of the Leshrac, and Splinter Blast I think is so favorable as a support. Like, if I'm playing the Winter Wyvern and I'm up against a Broodmother, once I get that level 7, I'm just a happy camper because I know I'm going to get so much farm. But because of that, VP are actually running an aggro tri-lane of theirs, which is a triple tri-lane with that chilling touch, which is automatically a great advantage. You combine the fact that Venomancer is a strong laning phase hero, and it seems like a great tri-lane to start with. They're actually going to go really aggressive early on. They're going to catch out PPD, but FNG is going to be their turnaround kill. Who's going to get that first blood first? Oh, just barely. VP pick up the kill on the Winter Wyvern and claim that coveted first blood gold before the Rubik does go down. So already the aggro tri-lane is a success, which means our Broodmother is going to be left in a 1 versus 1 against the Clockwork, which is a very favorable matchup. The only thing Clockwork can do is max out the Rocket Flare, which can get him a decent amount of farm, but won't really stop the Broodmother.
That was a really smart play from Peter. He didn't try to run away. You can't run away from level 1 Venomous Scale. And he just stood there and immediately started attacking the Rubik. And their chance of getting first blood there was actually pretty high for EG with that turnaround immediately.
Lil, guarding that bottom rune, is going to be able to pick it up. A bounty there. Haste rune at the top lane. We'll see who actually grabs that one. And keeping an eye on Universe. Looks like he's been trying to burn out, which is exactly the right play in the first level. Try and burn out the Broodmother's mana as much as possible via cogs, and see if you can force him to stop spamming out that Spiderlings. But of course, eventually we're going to see the Soul Rings, so there's only so much that cogs mana burning can really do for you.
How do you feel about the SF versus TA matchup? I've heard a lot of mixed things about it.
Yeah, I've heard that like it used to be really favorable to the Templar Assassin at one point in time, just because your damage was so overwhelming. So in those first couple levels, the SF couldn't really get souls. And then we also have the stacking.
Lift up Arteezy.
Oh, they charge in. They're going to be able to bump back both these supports. They're going on to FNG, but Arteezy is going to go down first. FNG is their turnaround kill. Illidan is very far forward here, but it looks like with the backup of Lil, who actually pops his healing salve, they will be able to make sure that EG doesn't get a secondary kill out of that. But again, they trade away the Rubik for a kill, and this time around, it's on the core.
It's the same thing coming out from Arteezy. As soon as he gets cold feet, he doesn't even try to move away from the cold feet. He just starts and tries to get a double stun off and then dump as much damage as he can with lightning.
They do have the TP in for the Rubik, but they've already popped Illidan almost. He managed to get off the salve, which is perfect. That means they'll be able to get the kill on Fear at the very least and get a little damage on Arteezy in the process, but just the max out aggression there, well timed by EG, knowing that they had the numbers advantage with the Rubik still being gone. FNG moving forward, hoping to be able to get a telekinesis and pull back Arteezy to the Venomancer. Not the case. Middle lane, God is actually going to be chased down. An easy kill for Sumail. Managed to get the last right click onto the SF, and even had the Spirit Breaker charging in, but it wasn't necessary.
They committed so many Observer Wards to the Radiant side of the map. One on the Magic Bush, one kind of in the lane, one in mid, and completely blind to the top where Sumail was able to just sneak a haste rune. I think that's the only rune that SF dies to, maybe an invis if he's really out of position, but highly unlikely.
Yeah, that would kind of require the, it would probably require the meld build, right, from Templar Assassin to actually go
or
for
level
an invis
6,
kill.
but he wasn't level 6 at that point.
But we have it now with the trap set up, and this is it's kind of a scary part for God now. He's already a little bit under level compared to the Templar Assassin, and the traps add obviously that kill potential that is normally needed for a TA. And we don't have any stacks. This is going to be another downside of the aggro tri-lane, is there's no stacking for the SF to make a recovery quite quickly.
Yeah, and on top of that, the one of the downsides of having an aggro tri is that your supports can't really roam around. It's super obvious when they go because it's not like they can pull. So, okay, they're either ganking mid or you'll see them in the bottom lane. So now they kind of have to bring FNG over, which means these two heroes on the bottom lane have to play super far back. Lil and Illidan are almost sitting at the T1 tower, even with vision of the support.
But look at poor Universe. There's, with only level 2 Rocket Flare, you can't actually kill any of these Spiderlings in the beginning. So Universe is just taking a lot of harassment. DK Phobos is well ahead of him at level 6 now. This is obviously a large part because he's able to take control of the neutrals as well as farming out the lane.
As long as he stays alive, though, he should be okay. The Brood can't really push a tower with the level 3 Rocket Flare, and I do like that build coming out from the clock.
Yeah.
Got to switch it up.
Yeah, kind of a necessity against that Broodmother. And, well, if he lands this next rocket, he'll actually get a decent amount of gold from some of these Spiderlings that are a little bit injured up. Right now, they've left Illidan alone here in the bottom lane. He's only level 4, and they're rotating their 2 supports up to the top lane. Now, eventually, EG are going to get wind of this, and they're just going to try and go on the Venomancer, which almost feels like a free kill in a way.
It's pretty obvious that he has a ward there. Normally, a Venomancer would place a Plague Ward to the left side, and he's playing on the right side of the creeps, and whenever Fear comes up, he scoots right into the fog so that he doesn't get charged. And they need to get a sentry for EG, and I think it's a somewhat obvious play.
Yeah. They also need a sentry to remove the ward that's blocking out. Oh, middle lane. Sumail actually coming forward, but telekinesis, he will be stunned up here, and that's going to be an easy kill for God. Fear cancels his charge, knowing that there's nothing he can really do. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Universe is getting chased away by the Broodmother. DK Phobos, though, didn't have the mana to commit for another nuke.
This is a difficult play to do if you're on the Radiant side, but DK Phobos being on the Dire side, you can actually creep skip in between the T1 and the T2. It's a slightly larger range in between those 2 towers, and if you have a really favorable matchup, you can actually do that instead of do the neutrals. So Broodmother, Phobos showing the flexibility of the hero and the many things that you can do with Brood Mama.
Yeah, especially with the strength. Okay, Venomancer is actually going for... I was kind of interested to see what build this would be. He's going more levels in Poison Sting rather than the just straight out max wards.
It scales so much better than before.
Yeah. Does he actually mag? Oh, they're going to be able to jump onto DK Phobos, and this is exactly what Universe needed to do. You said all he has to do is survive. Nice telekinesis pickup, though, by FNG, and maybe that's enough space to be able to get DK Phobos out, but he's going to run out of webs eventually, and the dust is still controlling him enough that he will end up going down. Peter is going to be able to get away from these Spiderlings just in time. EG commit 4 different heroes to stomp that Broodmother, but Universe survived through the lane long enough to get his level 6 and sets up his team for the kill.
Luckily, Rubik was just barely able to escape, and now finally Illidan can get some farm in the meantime. VP already warding up the Radiant Ancients, and they desperately need sentries so they can keep up in farm. You really want to be more farmed than this Venomancer, and looks like he's going to kind of burst ahead in net worth with his 5-man rotation. That's a sacrifice.
Yeah. What do you think about the builds here for the Templar Assassin? Do you go the straight Desolator that we've seen a lot, or do you think the Blink Dagger first before the Desolator is more essential?
I think they have really good kill potential with the Clock and the Spirit Breaker, and without a Deso, without a Blink, you're generally not going to be able to burst them down in time before a TP reaction or maybe even like a Rubik lift. I'm not sure which way they're going to take it, though. They don't have overwhelmingly strong late game because Leshrac is their position 1, and he didn't have that great of a time on bottom. So I think either or. You still need to wait for the game to develop a little bit more, but he's already committed to a Deso.
Okay, so that first Mithril Hammer coming out.
So this is it's a much more defensive play and stacking, and you can get kills, but we already saw how vulnerable he is to even something as simple as Cold Feet, which is good at taking off refraction as well as being able to just put the TA in a really bad position.
Yeah, we've got 3 different heroes that can take through refraction pretty quickly. In a way, Broodmother can if you've got Spiderlings. Bottom lane, they're going to be able to catch Universe, and he's definitely going down with that Ice Blast on top of him. So a nice pickup by VP, and might actually set them up for the tower, or maybe not with its CPN. The Leshrac's going to go for the kill on Illidan. Has vision, Fear just comes in, bonk, will be able to finish him off. Now the question is, FNG, he's playing this really aggressively because he knows how low Arteezy is. The Fate Bolt, it might be enough to finish him off. Just need another right click, but couldn't get it. 50 HP is what Arteezy will survive on. FNG gets real greedy and does die in the process of attempting for that Leshrac kill.
They don't have any ways to stop the charge aside from the telekinesis, and that thing's on a super long cooldown. They had already used it from the Rubik, and Universe knew that if he was in that sort of position that they could get some return kills. And it's really important to keep Venomancer under farm. We saw Puppy support Veno, I think, get Scepter at 25. I think Illidan his timing might be even later than that. Yeah,
this has not been a very happy time. It's kind of been the sacrifice that Illidan has had to play running this aggro tri-lane. He's kind of shut down Arteezy a bit, but it's also cost him a lot of his own farm.
I don't think it's paid off.
Yeah, it's not enough.
Every kill that they got one death in return, and they're going to get the tower now, but Arteezy is still pretty darn farm. 3,200 compared to 2,200 for Veno.
Yeah, I think it would be very fair to say that aggro tri-lanes can't afford to only go 1 for 1. That's just not
I
a
see
great
Rubik
idea.
sitting around, but Illidan's kind of out in no man's land.
Invis spotted out there, going to be able to get FNG, slowing him down. They actually go for Illidan. Nice telekinesis toss, though. There's still the ultimate from Fear, who picked up a very early level 6, and it's actually Universe's cheeky Rocket that finishes off the Rubik and steals the kill.
That was a very nice telekinesis play from Rubik, and I think he would have gotten away with it had Spirit Breaker not been level 6.
Had it not been for those pesky kids.
Yeah, they have two good heroes versus the Venomancer, the Clockwork and the Spirit Breaker. You kind of just charge in. If you want a Nova, they're okay with that, and if you don't get your Nova off, you're gonna die anyways. So that's pretty good. And the Plague Warders don't necessarily help versus that at all.
Well, the Dustolator is going to be coming up rather soon for EG, so this also opens up potentials for the Radiant side to actually take Roshan, which is a pretty rare thing for that first Rosh. But with this kind of minus armor, if they win a fight, especially near that bottom lane, you never know what could happen for EG. Gon is catching up in net worth, though. He's been spending a lot of his time being back and forth between the middle lane and the jungle. FNG committing yet another ward to block out that stack. Seems obviously quite necessary to prevent the Templar Assassin.
Yeah, he had to commit a smoke to that, though.
Yeah.
So they're investing a lot to try and shut down TA's farm. Like an aggro try and all these observer wards and massive sentry wards, but he's still like really far ahead of everyone else.
Seems like not only Desolator, but a Blink Dagger is going to be up before they actually have these team fights go on.
Why do you need to even make the choice if you get both in 15?
Yeah, exactly. Before any engagements really happen. I mean, it's 8-5, but it's only been laning phase kills. I think VP are going to be really looking to just sit back and farm up. In fact, you can see Illidan is actually trying to use his maxed out wards now to farm up the Ancients.
There's no way he can farm as fast as the TA, though.
FNG gets picked off. The Ice Blast does come in, lands on 4. Very nice setup, but DK Phobos, he's just getting bursted down. The ultimate goes out from God, but immediately following is the Winter's Curse that holds him in place. He turns around, goes for Fear, but immediate blast, and he actually gets taken out. Still, though, the death animation managed to take out the Templar Assassin, and Fear will tick out from that last urn. Illidan and Lil actually come out pretty big, going into that fight towards the tail end, and even the Winter Wyvern going down to the poison at the end.
Wow, that bash actually killed Sumail. He pushed him so he was right on top of the TA, and then when he died, he just burst all his souls on him. He was at like 60% HP, I think, from that.
Do you think that was a worthwhile engagement? I mean, he kind of shuts down God, but Illidan definitely got a lot of recovery
without the
from
TA
being in that team
kill.
fight.
I think it would have been fine. But look at Shadow Fiend's build. He's just gone for straight HP.
Yeah.
Although I'm a little surprised he didn't go for the mech.
Yeah, why is that? Because if we see SFs not go for the mech, it's usually because they have an offlaner who's able to pick up the mech, but that's not the case
I think
here.
because they don't really plan on trying to fight that much, just dodge fights with Venomancer and try and get AA ult, just burst kills here and there around the map, as well as have Broodmother kind of do Broodmother things. But I don't know, it's hard to not take fights when there's a Spirit Breaker in the game. He just almost automatically commits one team or another to the fight. So
that Rocket's going to spot out FNG. The hookshot actually, oh no, it doesn't quite miss. It actually hits Roshan, and now FNG, he's like, okay, you're inside the Roshan pit. I'll go ahead and telekinesis you into the side. I've got the double damage. With the help of my team, we'll take you out. Fear's going to come in and force this fight onto Rubik once again, and he still has the ultimate, but it may not even be necessary. Gets the bash. Now he commits the ultimate to DK Phobos. Meanwhile, Illidan is keeping a lot of these heroes back, but he doesn't have his ultimate anymore. So that means EG actually able to push forward and take him out. Still, though, DK Phobos is going to be able to sneak in from the side and go onto the Winter Wyvern. With help of the nukes, they'll take him out. And Slim Shady, Sumail, he's slowed down. Oh, nice dodge there with the meld. He actually turns around, goes for Lil, but that's not going to be enough to get the kill. He goes down as well. And VP, we talked about the potential. Maybe EG could win a fight around the Roshan area and take Roshan for themselves, which is pretty rare to see on the Radiant side. But sure enough, it continues to stay on the dire side advantage.
Wow, that whipped hookshot it made the fight way too long. If they just kill the Rubik, they get a charge on someone else, and then he can kind of commit the Nether Strike to that. But
they have vision inside of the pit with this charge. Arteezy can very easily go in. In fact, Lil, he's going to TP out, will be able to get out, and this is big because he can actually throw an Ice Blast in pretty soon. Arteezy immediately targeted out, just gets bursted. Now the Winter's Curse on the DK Phobos, but if they don't get lucky with bashes, they're not going to be able to get the kill. The turnaround. FNG throws a Winter's Curse of his own, and VP just win 2 fights in a row right in front of the Roshan pit, and this time around, 100% the Aegis is theirs.
big problem for that entire fight was that the observer ward has been sitting here the entire time. It's been up for, what, 5 minutes now? And I actually saw Peter ping it out afterwards because they had a complete vision of RTZ walking in because of the pre-channeled Requiem and all these other spells that just destroyed them when they went into the Roshan pit.
Oh, okay. So talking about the mech, I didn't actually think of this, but the Venomancer is actually going to go for the mech, it seems.
It seems like it's fine. He's kind of just there to tank up and get a little bit of damage off. And, you know, once you reach some point at Venomancer, you kind of have to relegate yourself to that role. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to get the Ag's Veil in 20 minutes and get a Midas and get out of control. So they're just relying on the hero that had a better start to do the damage. And you're not really that worried because TA, as we saw last fight, just got completely kited and might die again right here.
Sumail, he's run out of refraction charges so quickly with all those broodlings on top of him. And now they're going to be able to take a tier 2, it seems, as I highly doubt EG are going to be able to contest. The spam out of the lightning is nice, but I don't think it's going to be enough. VP, then again, they don't have any sustain. Oh, actually, I take that back. They do have an urn on Lil, which is a little surprising to see, considering how close he is to the Ags.
I don't think Sumail's going to be able to do anything this game, though. He hasn't gone for a Blink Dagger. He's going to get a BKB, but even then, he's still going to get kited. His refraction charges are going to pop immediately from, like, if not Veno or AA, then it's going to be Broodmother or Requiem. And I don't know. I don't really see them having that much damage. Leshrac had a decent start, but after that Roshan engagement has fallen behind even the relatively poor Venomancer. And what's he going to do? Get a Bloodstone and try and farm up? He's still going to be just the primary focus down target because TA you can just kind of ignore. Just scale her and focus down the weaker heroes and then deal with the TA later.
Right. And all this between the magic damage and we also now have the Orchid on the Broodmother. It seems unlikely Leshrac's going to be able to survive long enough to actually be a carry in these team fights, that Pulse Nova. But we'll see. Maybe EG can still get themselves a good fight. But at this point, it seems like their best play is going to be split pushing and avoiding team fights.
Yeah, I think we talked about the aggro trade not really being worth it, but I think their overall game plan was, okay, let's keep Leshrac underfarm. Which is more useful, an underfarm Leshrac or an underfarm Venomancer?
Yeah.
And a Venomancer has been played as a support, whereas Leshrac, I guess, kind of has, but it's just not RTZ's playstyle, and he's not able to do the things that he can normally do because he doesn't have any items.
Right.
He can't split push out lanes. He can't go into even think about pulse noving down heroes, and at this point, he can't do the flash farming and get his ridiculous GPM that he usually does.
A tier 1 for a tier 2. VP. Happy with the exchanges so far, but they don't really have any more objectives to take. I highly doubt they're going to be pushing uphill in the next 5 minutes, so all that's really left is that tier 2 in the top lane. So for now, it's going to be pretty much the control game, trying to make sure they hold as much of the map as possible and farming efficiently.
It actually seemed like that one missed hook shot into like that disastrous Roshan attempt kind of just kind of swung the whole game around in favor of VP. And
nice steal. That's going to be worth the damage that FNG took as long as he doesn't die, because now he's got the telekinesis into Split Earth. When you don't have an animation, it makes some of those spells rather easy to land.
Wow. Ancient Apparition is actually number 4 on net worth.
Yeah, it's pretty insane how farmed Lil is.
It has picked up his Ag.
Oh, man. Look at PPD. Like, if DK Bulbous hits this nuke, Peter dies. But, oh, hookshot in. He's actually going to bring Illidan inside of the cogs here, but unfortunately, the Blade Mail isn't going to be enough to ensure a kill.
He used that Blade Mail way too late. He could have... Shadow Fiend would have actually had to sacrifice his Aegis if they wanted to kill him that quickly.
And Peter actually died. I wasn't actually sure if Peter was going to take down from that one, but he did. Stun, nice play from FNG. Actually catches Fierce. He charges in from the side. And EG, I think they've all but fallen apart entirely here, as it seems like they're going to be giving up a lane or Rax before the 20-minute marker. God, he just keeps on pushing forward with the little time left on this Aegis.
FNG always surprisingly strong in his drafts. First pick TA was very popular at the start of the patch because there weren't that many counters, but once people realized that Venomancer was good, as well as Darkseer kind of being a top-tier offlaner, it hasn't been picked that often.
Another Ice Blast right on through, and Sumail is going to be caught by that one, and he's just gonna be gone. Oh, nice Winter's Curse. Maybe this can actually be a good fight with the nuke. They'll be able to take out the Rubik, and God's gonna go down as well with Phobos locked inside the cogs. Finally, EG get themselves a good engagement. Illidan's just hoping to be able to get the kill on Arteezy, but he quickly gets overwhelmed. So yes, VP were in a great position, but they were pretty much ready to close out that game until that Winter's Curse plays down by PPD.
Yeah, finally they catch a small break, but still suffering a lot of structural damage. And I mean, the AA is just going to be such a big problem for them. Like Ice Boss just does so much damage, more than like both of the supports and Clockwork to combine on the side of EG. And Fear wasn't really able to move around and do the damage that you want to do to like a Shadow Fiend or a Broodmother in the early mid because of all this pressure coming Arteezy's way.
Right. They desperately need to pick up some Glimmer Capes in order to deal with this Ag's Ice Blast, but doesn't seem like that's going to happen anytime soon. I do like the Arteezy choice to back down from the Bloodstone and go for the Ul Scepter. It felt like you kind of needed that item to counter the Orchid as well as some of this damage over time.
Yeah, they don't have that great of setup either because Clockwork hasn't been able to coordinate his hook shots with the team. There was the one at Roche, the one on bottom was merely a stall attempt because he knew he was going to die hooking in. And
right.
Maybe they can go for some pickups with the Yules on the side lanes while they're pushing. Like for example, right now the Shadow Fiend is kind of isolated and alone, and if they get a charge on him, that's a big kill. That's a huge momentum swing for EG. Looks like they might actually go for it.
This would be really good if they could get it. Arteezy trying to get close enough. The pings go out. God, it looks like he knows. The rest of VP are coming up, and EG, if they want to stay alive, they're going to have to back out.
That's the right play, though, from EG. They're trying to stop the 5-man. They know they're severely underfarmed right now, and their best bet is to get pickoffs here and there, trying to expand their map territory a little bit so they can farm, and it looks like VP is just playing way too smart. They're all grouped as 5 aside from the Broodmother, who doesn't really need to be with the team. We saw Sumail on top. He was trying to look for a double meld strike, and they're just not falling for any of these shenanigans.
DK Phobos going to have a BKB, so this actually gives a little bit more potential to the Broodmother in these uphill pushes. Can be a much bigger factor in team fights when you have that magic immunity. Otherwise, the Broodmother just kind of operates as this split push, single target pickoff hero. They almost, in fact, they will. The Glimmer Cape picked up by PPD. I'm really surprised he was able to pick up it was like 1,000 gold within the last 2.5, 3 minutes.
Rubik looks like he's setting up on Templar.
Oh, they're going to go on to Illidan here. They managed to lock him inside with the Blade Mail popped. This should be the death of Illidan. Fear's actually going to go for more. Actually catches Lil in the background. Illidan's still alive, but he is going to be just bursted down as Sumail comes forward. They're going to go for that additional kill onto Lil. Fear has to sacrifice his life for that one, but still, the damage over time is actually rapidly taking through the refraction. And if Sumail's not careful, he's going to be stunned up by that cold feet. So 1 for 2 so far. And VP might even look for more DK Phobos. Keeping his eyes on PPD.
Anyone who's at even close to half HP is just waiting to get shattered by the Ancient Apparition. It's so much damage, and Lil has been on point with him. Look at his score. He's beyond godlike.
Yeah, he is. He's insane. He's now got a Ghost Scepter, so he can play a little bit more farther forward against his Templar Assassin, not have to worry about being bursted down immediately.
There's one coming down right down the mid lane.
Arteezy. Looks like he's going to be caught by this one. And that's him back to base. 1 nuke. That's all it takes.
Yeah, he ticks down to like almost half HP. And that's with a Glimmer.
Okay, so he's going to Glimmer, Yules, everything he can to stop some of this damage so he can stay out and farm a bit more. The next Roshan is coming up in the next minute. And that will be VP's time to push uphill if they can get the next Aegis.
There's just too much damage on VP. Veno ult and AA ult are 2 things that you can't really avoid, especially if the AA ult is in a good position. And Glimmer Cape is only single target. You can't save all these heroes. And we saw even though they had a really good engagement on the Venomancer, 2 heroes still died.
What's better for EG? Maybe I should ask this question a little bit later because it seems like VP are going to get a pick off on Peter. Catching him, pulling him back. Nice Force Staff. Actually gives him the save with the Glimmer Cape. Very nicely played by Universe with that Force Staff to stop the telekinesis pullback. And VP, maybe they can catch Sumail still, but he's got the Blink Dagger, and he knows. So what's better? EG, if they have the choice, if they actually know everything and make the conscious decision, do they contest Roshan? Is it better to fight around the Roshan pit? and try and contest that Aegis, or is it better to play defense and operate on those buybacks?
I think it's defense and operate on the buybacks. It's,
Okay.
You're waiting for Brood to fall off, and he's having to go for a BKB build, and they have, like, you know, Glimmer and other spells to try and deal with this Orchid. So you wait for the Broodmother to fall off, and you're kind of fighting like 4.5 v5, and you want Leshrac to be able to get like a BKB at some point as well as TA. That's, you know, kind of a half measure versus the ultimates. But you have to get a BKB. Requiem plus Venom ult plus AA ult, it's like the whole screen, and you just can't dodge them in a team fight. So that means if you can't outplay it with positioning, you simply have to get BKB. But it's going to take maybe too long for them to get 3 of them. We see 1 on Templar Assassin. I think Spirit Breaker is going for 1, and Leshrac will probably eventually go for 1.
Yeah.
But that's going to be too long. I don't think they're going to get the time that they so desperately need.
EG, they didn't really have much choice in the matter. They 4-man smoked up, but with the double damage on Shadow Fiend, they take out Roshan. Fast enough that EG didn't even have a chance to contest if they wanted to.
So I think AA is like not that far away from the fight, so the Ice Blast will be pretty small. I think they need to kill Illidan probably very early.
Oh, the hookshot actually going for Illidan as soon as possible, just as you suggested. The Winter's Curse actually getting laid down on the SF. Meanwhile, on the side, Fear's actually going to be gone on. Looks like he will be able to get out while the Rubik does die to Templar Assassin. God pop at the BKB. Ice Blast actually clips Sumail. But God is threatened enough without his BKB and at half HP. Doesn't look like they're going to fight anymore. So well played. They use that haste rune quite well on the side of EG.
They don't have any ultimates up. Or they don't have Clockwork and Winter Wyvern, their main ultimate, so they might actually still go in.
Yeah, with 2 heroes down, 1 TP back and 1 dead, Arteez is going to be able to catch Illidan, and he's just barely gets off his ultimate, but what's the point? If there's no follow-up, the rest of EP, DK Phobos, he actually has to dodge Fear's charge in through. He actually managed to get off the Orchid in time to stop that ultimate, but that's going to be a BKB charge down at the very least, and that's kind of the opening. I really like the way that EG forced that fight in the beginning. You know, just as you say, they kind of need to go on Illidan first. That's exactly what Universe does, but it was also the fragmented nature of that fight that didn't allow VP to get, you know, those really good ultimates. They just really abused the fact that they had these kind of hit-and-run heroes between the Clockwork and the Templar Assassin with the haste rune.
Yeah, it was merely a distraction so that Templar Assassin could pick off the Rubik. Generally, Rubik's like right next to the Clockwork initiation target.
Oh God, is he gonna get pushed back over the cliff? The Clock's actually pushing him down, oh no, but now he's next to Sumail, and that's still perfect for EG. They take away that one. The stun onto DK Phobos, he doesn't have a BKB, so he should be going down here, but they don't have any counter vision. Now the ultimate goes off from God, he's gonna be able to take down Fear, and the rest of EG actually back out from that engagement. They won it in a way, as they're able to get that free kill on the Spirit Breaker and take away the Aegis.
Yeah, we can see how they can win team fights as long as they're not all together. They killed Illidan, forced them to use Nova when none of VP's heroes were around. They weren't all ready for that Clockwork hookshot, and Rubik died as a result of the fight. So they're trying to play like very tight positioning, but EG are finding the weaknesses, and likely they'll need another Aegis to even think about pushing another high ground.
Yeah, this doubles up the game for probably another 10 minutes. Perfect for EG. Of course, there's still plenty of growth on the side of VP. We still need that Aghanim Scepter on the Venomancer. SF has a lot he can scale into as well. And the one big problem, as you said before, is going to be the Broodmother, who is going to taper off over time.
I think it might have been better for AA to not have been in that last push, though. And I don't think the AA ult really hit anyone that fight, but it's just so hard when you're, you know, 1 screen away. You need to be like all the way across the other side of the map. But at the same time, that kind of leaves him vulnerable to like a Clockwork and maybe like a Spirit Breaker engagement, because he went items that defended him against TA, which is the Ghost Scepter, and now he's going a Force Sap, so he can kind of get out of the Clockwork too. So I can understand why they didn't do that, because they don't want the AA to be picked off and have no Ice Blast instead of a small chance of the Ice Blast hitting. And they also didn't expect EG to actually fight outside of their base.
So do you think in that case, once he does get the Force Staff, should he just be split pushing down one of the side lanes so he has more distance or a better Ice Blast AoE?
They also want like the picks to work out. Like a lot of the reason that push actually failed too was because the smoke ink onto Peter actually failed, and they weren't able to fight 5-on-5 instead of 4-on-5, which VP really wanted to. So it just depends on how they want to take it. Either look for picks, but it looks like they are looking for picks because they're trying to get map control right now with a gem on an Ancient Apparition, and they do need him for that.
Yeah. We'll talk about the MKB versus Daedalus in a second as soon as we watch Fear die, as the Ice Blast should be enough to get the kill. And Peter, he's also going to go down here. He gets off the Winter's Curse, but he's still slowed down enough that DK Phobos may be able to commit for the kill, but never mind, the physical damage just ripped him apart. He does go down Arteezy, backs away from the cold feet proc. And now they're going to re-engage, slowing down Illidan, trying to burst him down with a BKB activated by Sumail. He'll get that one kill and searches for more, knowing that Fear's going to be able to back him up soon. Has the ultimate, throws it down, but he gets interrupted by the telekinesis, and God, he has so much physical damage now. Sumail is actually just going to be run down by God as he has no more refraction ticks, and he goes down to him as well. Gone with a double kill as he pushes forward, doesn't need his quote-unquote one-position Venomancer, as that was a title that was passed on long ago to the Shadow Fiend.
So they're kind of fending it off with the BKBs. I don't see them having any anti-BKB counter as of yet, unless Rubik steals something awesome. But right now he just has refraction, and TA is going in at the right time, just waiting for them to use Gale, wait for Veno to be in a position where he can just be bursted down while the TA has her BKB on. They don't really have a good way to force her BKB out, and that's the thing of when you're approaching so close to EG's base, you can fight on your terms. You can get the jump with the charge, with the clockwork hookshot, with even split earth as they push up the hill.
Well, this is a little awkward. Arteezy comes forward, gets hit by the telekinesis, and he's dead. That was just the wrong time for him to try and aggressively push forward.
He's just scrambling for any sort of farm. He knows that they're in a huge net worth deficit, and VP are just constantly going down mid and mid and mid and mid. So the more he pushes out the lanes, the less chance they have to push, but this leaves them open for a push like this. He does have 4,000 gold, though.
Yeah, so he will be able to buy back. And he's got a lot of levels, which is the important thing about Aleshrek. Even if he is a bit underfarmed, in the right positioning, with the right setup from EG, he can do a lot. His Universe is going to jump onto God, and they will be able to take him out with the Winter's Curse. Sumail is going to be stunned up. FNG not going to be able to survive through that one. Illidan gets off a great ultimate with the Ice Blast over the top. They may still be able to get a couple of pickoffs with DK Phobos alive. DK Phobos actually gets pushed back by the cogs there. Universe, unfortunately, not catching that Broodmother like he wanted to, it seems. But
Sumail?
Once again, EG,
Oh, wow, that was close.
PPD. He ended up going down. Sumail.
He almost shattered. He had Venom ult and AA ult on him.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What is it at? Like, that's 200 HP, and the Ice Blast is, what, 11% at level 2? I think if it was level 3, the 12%, that probably would have been enough. All right, so I kind of want to talk about this one as, actually, I'm waiting for the...
They're getting impatient. VP, they know that they have a Brood, which doesn't scale that well, so they want to push with his BKB so that he doesn't get wrecked later. But last fight, I think he BKB'd onto the Winter Wyvern, or the fight before, rather, and then he got 3-shot by the TA as he was inside their base. And TA will just destroy Broodmother in a man fight, and they don't want to get to that point where it's BKB ward, but it already has, because they've taken the risk already, and they wanted to wait for the Roche, but hasn't happened. EGs have had like fantastic engagements too. That jump on the Shadow Fiend was very, very well executed.
Okay, so this item build for Sumail. It seems pretty obvious that he's going to go with the MKB. He obviously needs hold on to buyback, though. Do you actually like the MKB? Because there is the Butterfly. That's obviously why he would go for it here.
And Incapacitating Bite.
Oh, that's also true. I forgot about that one. I was also thinking, but the Daedalus would have a lot of value in a way. Oh, no, Sumail! Oh, what a terrible time to blink forward to farm as he runs into the 4-man smoke of VP. But going back to it, I just thought that the critical could actually be a potential build as well, because not going for the SF, but bursting down certain heroes like the Venomancer would actually be very important.
It's most likely going to be a prolonged fight, though, because they have 4 staff on AA, they have 2 Ghost Scepters, and they have BKBs. So it's very unlikely that he's going to be able to, like, one-shot someone.
Yeah.
Especially on land. You can just pop Ghost Scepter immediately.
Right.
So, you know, they have a lot of counterplay to that, and they want to be able to kite his BKB. And if he's most likely going to be man-fighting someone like the Brood or the SF during the BKB, and you want to win that one. If you have to back off during your BKB, you already lost the fight as TA.
Yeah. So once he does have that MKB, you're going to see him try and challenge God as much as possible.
They need another initiation like last time, but notice everyone's split apart from the Shadow Fiend. If he Winter's Curses them, no one's going to be attacking him.
And that's why Universe is going to jump on Illidan, see if they can take him out. They actually pop the Winter's Curse, but it looks like he's still going to be able to get off the ultimate. Sumail comes forward and tries to finish him off, but the ultimate is still there, and that's going to be problematic, especially with Sumail running out of refraction charges. They do have the Cold Embrace, but eventually he will go down as that heal was not available with the Ice Blast over the top thanks to the Ancient Apparition. VP handily win the fight, and now they have so much downtime. 80 seconds on the clock for the Templar Assassin that VP could very easily make this 2 lanes of Rax. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that that tier 2 tower was up in the top lane, it would almost say that EG would have to GG out, but looks like they're going to GG out anyway. Game number 1 goes to VP.
Very well played by VP. I think they have the confidence that most teams don't to just constantly push high ground. Okay, we lost the fight. We know what we did wrong. Like we didn't get AA ulti off, or we clumped around the SF, or we popped our BKBs too late. Whatever it was, they immediately changed their mistake and had a successful or more successful push.
So very well played by Virtus Pro. I mean, I was very concerned about their form going into this tournament. I felt like that they didn't really look like the VP that we saw at TI. Even though they kept the same roster, it was a little bit surprising that they weren't, easily one of the strongest teams. They were actually losing a lot of matches, but we're seeing here the strength of this team going up against, obviously, the TI champs in EG. Merlini, your thoughts on game number 2? Do you actually feel like VP, are they actually just outstyling essentially
They're just
EG?
way more adapted to the patch than EG is. It feels like, they're still running things like Leshrac Core on the side of EG, as well as a mid TA, which is a more of a rarity, and as well as more of a dire thing too. So a lot of teams that experimented and failed, and they're still in that infancy.
Okay, well, we'll see what our analysts have to say about EG and what do they need to do to change up and actually take a win in game number 2.
Thank you so much, Captain Merlini. Back here with Nahaz and Melk. Welcome back, gentlemen. Now, Virtus Pro showing a lot of confidence there. They put together a lineup with so much damage. You're talking about Lil finishing 12-0 on his Ancient Apparition. I don't know if I've seen such a potent Venomancer AA combo in quite a while. And, well, Rubik halfway there. 0-10, but still got the win.
They didn't even have like an Aghanim Scepter on the Venomancer, so it wasn't because that combo was that potent. It was just that Lil just ran amok with farm early on. All these kills just stacked up on a support hero where the Rubik steps in and buys everything he needs so he can get that Aghanim Scepter really early on, and he was just on target with those Ice Blasts constantly. And I really gotta hand it to VP for putting on this aggressive tri-lane. When you have a Venomancer and an AA, you have the tools to do so. Rubik even is pretty good. And the game plan to just keep down that Leshrac, knowing that the Broodmother's going to have an easy time up against the Clockwork, I thought that was really, really well played. The only redeeming factor for Evil Geniuses this game was Sumail and the Templar Assassin, and the guerrilla warfare they tried to apply when they were under pressure.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't even know where to start with this game. There are really so many points that you could make. I thought the tri-lane was certainly the story of the early game. That VP, we were talking about this on the panel, and we were actually talking about this down there for like 5 minutes after the game began. I thought VP bet a lot of chips on the success of that early tri-lane, but they were able to execute, and they were able to execute well enough to overcome Sumail dominating mid in that 1v1 matchup. And the game really turned for VP with 2 team fights in the middle of the game. About 13-minute mark, you saw that huge Poison Nova Ice Blast combo where Illidan was just basically standing there and getting kills doing nothing with heroes ticking down. You saw the kind of ill-fated Roche Pit engagement around the 17-minute mark.
Was so unlucky. We talked about a misfire yesterday, but that was definitely the misfire of the tournament.
It was, but you looked at the impact that fight had, and that was an 8K gold swing from the 14 to the 18-minute mark for VP, and they really never looked back from there. Arteezy, because of the damage output coming out from that combo, forced into going the Eul's Scepter and the Glimmer Cape early on in his Leshrac, a very defensive build, wasn't able to play greedy, didn't complete that Bloodstone until the 35-minute mark. I mean, VP got everything they wanted and then some. After this match, they now have 7 out of the top 25 Rax times in this patch. This is a team, if they get ahead early, that knows what to do with that lead.
Absolutely.
And they were relentless at it as well. They just kept on going down middle lane. They were like, oh, we messed up, let's try again. Oh, we did it again. Wait, let's position like this. Oh, we died again. Okay. Because Universe, he did what he had to do. He created that space, hookshot initiate, cogs, and then TA coming in from behind, picking off a hero, because it's so hard to push when you're down a guy.
They just hit their peak and they're like, we're not going to let up. We are not going to let up, and it worked out for them. And that's just game number 1. And remember, it's elimination series. EG are going to need a win in game 2 if they want to stay alive here at MLG. Virtus Pro are now just one step away from claiming that spot into the championship playoffs. We're going to come back in a moment for game 2, but I also wanted to let everyone know in-house here that Monkey Business are going to be doing a signing over at the Scuff Gaming Arena, which is just behind the Dota 2 area. And well, the first 100 people to go to that signing are going to get a complimentary Dota 2 plushie. So head over there right now. For everyone else at home, we're going to be sending you instead to a commercial break. We'll be back in just a little bit for game 2 of Evil Geniuses going against Virtus Pro. We'll see you soon.
I'm going for the plushie.